Hi, and welcome to another episode of Badger Nerdworks Presents We Watched a Movie. I'm Brandon, this is Chris, and we just saw Atomic Blonde. Chris, your thoughts?
This movie, I went in watching some previews that I wish I hadn't watched because I had a misrepresentation of this movie as soon as I walked in. I thought it was going to be somebody getting knocked out in a single punch by this lady that weighs 140 pounds,
Right.
but they hit him in the jaw, and I've been punched by a 7'2" guy. That's not how it works.
I think it enhanced, it really showcased, especially the ads, the action sequences in this
Yes,
movie.
absolutely.
And mostly this is a spy drama. It is not an action film. It's closer to a James Bond than it is a John Wick.
And that is what I liked about this movie, is that I was afraid it was going to be this one-punch knockout, Kill Bill meets John Wick
Right.
spy movie, because I seriously went in as a pessimist, and I came out really enjoying myself after this movie. It's a flashback to 1989 and the Berlin Wall, if you're not familiar.
Right, totally a
And
period
that's
piece.
the period piece that this takes place during. It's very well put together. I like the music, the soundtrack by far was probably one of my favorite parts of it.
Yeah, it rocks from the first moment. From the first moment, you're like, yes, this movie has awesome music. Yeah, I was really impressed with how they were able to generate an East Berlin that looked and felt authentic. The cars, the vehicles, the clothes, it all felt Cold War, Russia influence, age of espionage, this was more like James Bond than it was
Kingsman.
Yes, thank you. Exactly. It was more James Bond than Kingsman. It was more about the political intrigue of the era than it was about explosive fight scenes and ridiculous over-the-top capacities. She seemed real human. In the ads, they make her seem real extra human, but in the fight scenes, oh, that's a person getting messed up. That fight took as long as it should have taken to take out a trained KGB agent.
Yeah, that's one of the big things with this movie, is that I like that it didn't shy away from getting any specific rating. At least it didn't appear to shy away from getting any specific rating, I want that PG-13, I want that whatever rating. It looks like it was just, this is what it is, and it kind of came with that natural feel to it, to where it's not like, I'm going to cut this scene away because we can't show this, or I'm going to make this unnecessarily graphic for the purpose of
Getting the honor.
trying to be something that it doesn't have to be, or that it's not, that wouldn't actually happen. And that's what I appreciated about this movie. When somebody's supposed to get hurt, they got hurt. When somebody's going to get back up, they're going to get back up. And they didn't do unnecessary fight scenes, it didn't seem like, which for me is one of the worst things you can do in an action movie or in a spy movie, is where you just say, I just feel like there needs to be action right now.
Right.
And then let's just...
There should be guys who just kill for no reason.
3 machine guns shooting at you, you might survive, but if you survived 8, that would be amazing. Let's have 8 machine guns shooting at you. Why would you need that? So this movie shied away from that. The hand-to-hand fight scenes were well choreographed.
Yes.
They did a lot of this single shot photography,
really
where it was
long
just
single
one
shots.
long shot. And they did a really good job masking where they would cut between scenes. It's very reminiscent of Birdman, if you're familiar with that film, and a lot of these fight scenes. And that was...
Well, and I thought it was really clever the way they worked in the edits. It'll be something like a guy just passes in front of you real quickly. This movie starts with naked Charlize Theron in an ice bath. She gets out. Yeah, not the worst thing you could possibly go to see. But she's just tore up. Her shoulder is just black and blue. She has the right lacerations and cuts. You won't come out of that without anything. And the brutality of it, these are human beings, and they're semi-fragile in addition to being competent. In fact, the way they just kind of kill people off and the way the action goes down, because they keep you in the dark. They're real good in terms of a spy thriller. Until you get to the end of that movie, you are really in the dark. And then I think it would be even a different movie if we went back and saw it again. So this is one of those things where I think it's not just good on the first watching because it's an engaging spy thriller, but it'll be a good movie because upon additional watchings, you'll pick up those extra moments. And the stuntmen were really invested in this movie. They threw themselves into that downstairs, getting smashed with things she did not look like she was holding back on.
It very much felt to me more like Usual Suspects kind of whodunit kind of feel set up to the movie, and that's kind of how they set up the movie. And you start off and she does this interview, this debriefing.
And she makes it real clear she doesn't trust everyone in the debriefing. From the first moment, she's like, I don't even trust my higher-ups. She gets teamed up with the James McAvoy character, who's like her contact in Berlin. It's almost one of those situations where you can't trust anybody. Like, from the first moment, you know everyone you're dealing with is setting you up. That really keeps you guessing. You're like, oh, shit. And even when you're positive people are friggin' bad guys, they turn out to be, like, just more complicated than that.
I have to say this was by far, it's my favorite performance James McAvoy ever put on. I really enjoyed him in this movie. He played his character very well. He's a guy that you kind of want to like, but you also kind of want to dislike the whole movie.
Yeah.
And he very much makes it enjoyable.
Well, I think he really jumped into that idea that he's engrossed himself in the Eastern Berlin punk movement, and like he seems to be exchanging denim jeans and box of Jack Daniels for information and connections and stuff, and he's really well invested in the city. So it's very entertaining watching him negotiate that, but you're like, do I trust you at all?
For those of you who don't know, James McAvoy is supposed to be her contact in Berlin that she's supposed to go and meet up with and help her, Charlize Theron. I always say her name wrong. Sorry, Charlize. If you're watching this, I'm sure you are. James McAvoy was supposed to be her contact in Berlin, and that's who she's supposed to meet up with. But he's just a very rough around the edges guy. From the picture that you see of him as him being the agent form of himself that they show her before she's supposed to go meet up with him, and then this East Berlin 1989 punk kind of scene version of him you get when he's undercover
He's been
there.
made what he is by the dynamics of East Berlin. East Berlin is a huge character in this movie. The East versus West, they're very different, and you know when you're on one side or another.
They never let you forget that. They show the wall in, like, half the scenes. There is a wall. You're either on one side of it or the other, or you can see between it, but there's almost always a wall. It's like Trump's America.
What they're fighting over is functionally just a list of agents. Like, that's a trope we've seen before. But it's right as Berlin's about to fall, so if it gets into the wrong hands, like, we see the political movement. It largely focuses on like the motion in East Berlin to like tear down the wall and whatnot, and like that's kind of the backdrop of the movie. All that is contingent on the idea that this doesn't blow up in their faces.
Yes, this is very much the end of the Berlin Wall. For those of you that don't know, that the Berlin Wall got knocked down in 1989.
Right there
at that pressure, that build, that pressure that's being East Berlin, West Berlin, and that wall coming down.
Well, and
this is the rise of that. These spies, these contacts could potentially continue that Cold War, and that's
right when they're right on the edge.
Reason for the continued search of this list.
And that's why it's so important. That's why they're willing to dedicate so much energy and violence and
time, self-sacrifice.
Yeah. No, it was pretty brutal, but it was cool. I enjoyed the fact that it was a spy movie about spies being spies, as opposed to a spy movie about big action sequences and blowing stuff up. I've never read the source material, but it seemed smart. It seemed like it knew what it wanted to do as a story. I think they sadly marketed it more action than spy, and I think that was their disadvantage because they had a really good spy story. I enjoyed the action. I won't lie. I enjoyed the whole thing. I thought it looked cool. It looked slick. I had a lot of fun.
Absolutely. The action aspect of this movie was well done because it wasn't forced. Looks like it came naturally, and I appreciated that they did focus on the spy aspect of the movie and made that part enjoyable, because otherwise all you end up with is another action movie, and those are a dime a dozen right now. They made it come together, and it just worked. It was an enjoyable movie. I'd highly suggest it.
Thanks for watching another episode of Badger Nerdworks Presents We Watched a Movie. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe. Put your comments down below and check out our other videos to the left. They're a lot of fun. Hit the bell icon if you want notifications when new videos come out. Thanks again for coming. We'll see you next time.
Leave a comment above. I dare you. Sorry, Charlize.